Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Intuition Activation Podcast. I'm your host, Jessica, a spiritual medium and intuitive coach, and I'm so excited that you're here to join me for this intuitive development journey. And you guys, I have another amazing, brilliant guest for you on this week's episode, and I'm so excited to introduce you to the amazing psychic medium, Heidi Jaffe. Now, Heidi Jaffe is a certified psychic medium and master teacher of mediumship. She is also dual certified in both soma and conscious connected breathwork, which she uses not only to deepen your psychic connection, but also to support emotional release and personal transformation. And she is also the founder of Nisa Retreats, where she teaches people how to connect to their intuition. Guys, it was so exciting for me to connect with another medium who really has dedicated a lot of her work to helping you connect to your intuition. And she really strongly advocates that this is not something special, right? That you have to be a special chosen one to be a psychic medium. Her retreats are really designed for people who just want to explore their intuition a little bit more, not even for people who want to be psychic mediums by trade, but just want to be more connected to their intuitive abilities, who want to be connected to their mediumship. And what's really unique about Heidi is that she also does this through or helps people tap in through breath work. And so I'm really excited to offer you guys or share with you guys somebody who has a different approach to connecting to your intuition. She's got so many incredible tips and tricks on how to really strengthen and heighten your intuitive abilities. And it's also really been affirming to see that a lot of the things that she shares with her clients are things that I have been preaching for you guys on this podcast for so long. And so the techniques and the approaches to accessing your intuition are all the same, if you will. There a lot of the things that I preach on here are tried and tested and true and are now being advocated even so by another medium here. But Heidi does have a different spin on it, and I'm really excited to introduce her to you for you to learn a few tips and tricks from her as well. She also has some interesting insights into the difference between a psychic reading, a mediumship reading, and connecting with your spirit guides and how those are different for her and her experience. And so I'm really excited to introduce her to you. But before we dive into this really amazing, compelling conversation, I do want to remind you guys that I am filling up booking sessions for through to the end of September. I'm pretty much booked. So if you were thinking of getting a spiritual guidance session, now's your time to book to get your slot for October and November. Those are starting to fill up as well. Don't forget that I have been trying to make my sessions way more accessible for you guys. I feel like this time of year is so important. It feels kind of like New Year energy. And it's so important to figure out where am I headed for the rest of this astrological year, if you will, and really get connected to the self, return to the self, and get in alignment. And so if you're needing some help and you're getting stuck, please don't hesitate to come and book a session with me. I have reduced my rates to 2024's prices, so they're much more accessible to you. And I'm also still having a sale, a buy two, get a third one free. So definitely be sure to head over to jessicarachel.co/session and book your spot now and grab that package. It won't last long. But otherwise, guys, I'm really excited for you to meet and hear all about Heidi Jaffe and learn about her amazing retreats. And I think you're going to really want to run over and connect with her. I believe we also have a coupon code to work with her if you would like one. So head over to the show notes to look for that. Otherwise, here she is, the amazing Heidi Jaffe. Well, so welcome, Heidi, to the Intuition Activation Podcast. I'm so incredibly excited to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. And so I have so many questions that I want to ask you, and I'm so excited to have you here, to have a fellow intuitive here. But before we dive into all of that, the first question that I always ask ask my guests is, what does intuition mean for you?
I mean, intuition, it, it's, trusting your gut. I mean, that's to me, that's the core. I think intuition is so multifaceted, and I think we could spend an hour or two, on it. But intuition is it's but I also believe that our guides and our loved ones imprint themselves on us to help us with our own intuition as well. So I'm saying, like, there's so many different layers, but in general, it's it's the fact that we all truly know what we need to do. It's just a matter of when and how we're going to trust it and not second guess it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my feeling.
It's beautiful, and I completely agree. So thank you for that. And so
Okay, good.
it's perfect. And so you are a medium, an intuitive, a breathwork coach. You do so many things and wear so many hats. You run these beautiful intuitive development retreats. But I almost want to kind of dial it back a little bit. Was this something where your intuitive ability something that you pursued right from the beginning? Did you always know that this is what you wanted to do for a career? What did your upbringing sort of look like, and how did you get yourself to this place? Mm.
I did not choose for this to happen. It just happened. I was a medium first. Like, yeah, the mediumship came for me first, and the psychic was after, actually. My upbringing was actually, I want to say normal, but I grew up in Hollywood, California. So that upbringing really isn't normal, but like normal for me, you know,
Understood.
and it's like I grew up, I had a normal childhood, and I went to, good private schools in LA. And, my dad was a doctor, and my mom was an actress, and then she was a nurse, and then did all this fundraising for the hospital. So I grew up, like doing just normal stuff, like snow skiing and like water skiing, like, Southern California stuff. And, I have a tight family and good friends, and, pretty normal. But I always felt spirits growing up, as most of us do who, work in this field. Everyone's got the childhood story, but I actually was trying to go into it. It just slowly happened over the years. And then I just decided to listen to it. And then it just kind of burst wide open for me. And it just took on its own life, you know. And next thing I knew, I had a 2-year waiting list, and kind of that's like the shortest story. But it really started to open up for me. I've mentioned this in some other interviews. I moved from LA to Florida. And when I moved to Florida, things got really quiet for me. I wasn't in like crazy hustle bustle of Los Angeles anymore. And that's when things really started to open up, because I wasn't so distracted, by being in the city. And that's kind of where it started. If I had to kind of put a point, not started, but really started to transform into what I've become today.
Mhm. So when you were growing up, you were very open to the idea of spirits being around you, and like it wasn't something that scared you or that you shut down. Like you always knew it was something you wanted to do.
No, I mean, I was always very comfortable in it. I really was. And then when I realized what I was, I felt the most me I'd ever felt in my life. I went, oh, this is who I am. And I was like, awesome. Like, I'm going to be the best I can at this, and really like help people. You know, and so I've just worked really hard just to be the best I can be, because once I decide I'm going to do something, you kind of can't steer me away from it. I get pretty like determined and focused. So yeah, once I realized this was my path, because it kind of fell on my lap, there was just kind of no turning back for me.
Yeah. And what did that intuitive development journey look like for you? Did you seek out a mentor? Did you just practice as much as you can? Like how did it fall into your lap, as you say?
Yeah. So I literally just started getting messages for people that I knew.
Mm.
I could close my eyes and I would see somebody I knew. I would see who was there for them. I usually get their initial and how they passed. And then they would give me a specific message, and I would hear their voices perfectly, and the tone of their voice and how they spoke, the way they phrased things. And then I would, ask the people, they were acquaintances at the time, if I could share something with them. And if they said yes, and I said, okay, I, kind of prepared them. And it was always right. And I had discovered, after this had happened many times, that it was always the people that I would get messages for. It would just been the birthday or anniversary of the person who came through within that week every time. It was I noticed the pattern. And so, as I say, I feel like I was just the closest beacon at the time. And then they just kept coming, and I searched everywhere for help. like I went to spirit churches and I was looking at like mediumship workshops and just like anything I could, as I think all of us do when you start opening up that door. And so yeah, I worked with Lisa Williams for a while, and I got my master teacher certification through her a long, long time ago. I think 10 years ago, something like that. So it's been a long time, over 10 years ago. I'd done the mediumship stuff before, but the teacher thing was like years later. So that's probably who I worked with the most. So that was quite a long time ago. And that's, and then I wanted to get tested and certified. So, I got certified wherever I could and got certified by Fiber Family Foundation as well. But I ended up leaving that foundation. I just decided just kind of not be associated with any group and just kind of do my own thing, So that's really kind of how it happened,
That's so beautiful. It's interesting because, the listeners of this podcast, everybody is, if they're listening to this podcast, usually they're feeling that little nudge, right? That little pull to there's
Right.
something more to this. Like, I think I'm getting messages. I don't necessarily think I have control over them. I want to do a little bit more, but I don't know how. And so that's why I kind of push you on sort of like, how did it happen for you? Did you actively seek it out? Because I know for me, I actively sought it out, right? I was like, I think there's something to this. This is what I want to seek out, but I didn't experience it prior to actually pursuing it. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on, do you have the belief that special people, only certain people get to have psychic abilities, or is everyone intuitive?
So the reason I started my retreat company is because I do believe everybody has the ability. I don't think I'm any more special than anybody else. I just work harder. And maybe I'm, have a little bit more than so and so, but I also I train for the marathon all the time. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm always training and always opening up and always working on it, and so it's like it's just building a muscle, and I believe we all can build that muscle. So, I made my retreats because I wanted it to become accessible to everybody. And I also wanted to raise the bar on it because I'm sure you've experienced over the years, a lot of the mediumship workshops and psychic, they're all kind of like weird and in dumpy places. And I don't know, kind of lowbrow, at least a lot of them that I experienced. But granted, that was like 15 years ago. So, but I wanted to raise the bar and make it nice and 4 and 5 star and, raise it up a notch because it's, and, but also because I believe everybody has this ability, like anybody can come, because so many people have different reasons, that they may be feeling that pull. Some are empathic, right? And they're getting messages or, whether it's from loved ones or through their intuition or dreams or, whatever, that they can't really understand. Some people are grieving, and they want to be more in touch with their loved ones and they feel like they're getting signs, but they're not sure. And they keep second guessing it. Like, no, I'm crazy, there's all sorts of people. Some people are just truly curious, of just what else is out there. And also, I have a lot of people who are just they're questioning spirituality in general, and need to find some direction in their life, So I've built this program for everybody in all of those categories to be able to come and explore. And I will tell you, I've never had anybody not have a breakthrough. I mean, literally just my one in England, I literally just finished 2 days ago. Every single person said it was the life-changing experience and it was the most amazing thing they've been on. And I was like, yes, they did it. Everybody felt like they got what they needed, and they're all just, everybody's just normal people, whatever you want to call normal. Nobody was there to become a psychic medium. If somebody wants to, I can train them. But, I really want to prove to people you can do this, you have this ability, we're all special. I'm not any more special. This person's not any more special. We all have this ability. It's just a matter of opening up those doors. We just have so many confines in our brains. I always say we live as big as the box we build around ourselves.
Beautiful.
And, and also we're also tainted from our upbringing or religion we were brought up in, or our schools, or, our family environment, social media, blah, 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 all these things. And so I want to help people strip all that stuff away and see what's underneath all of it without all those voices in their head telling them what they can and can't do and shouldn't do, etc.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true, and that's definitely something that I always say on this show is that your intuition is just a muscle. It's always been with you. It's been with you since birth. You just have to
Mhm.
learn how to strengthen it, right? And the more you
Absolutely.
clearer the messages get. So it's really just a matter of practice, right? And I love how you compared yourself. Like it's not that you're any different than anyone else. It's just that you're training for the marathon, right? Every
Yes.
day, right? So the more that you practice, I really, really love that. I would love for you to give us, if you can, a little snapshot of what you're maybe teaching on these retreats. If somebody is just starting out and they're wanting to strengthen their intuition, are there some tips and tricks or little exercises that you could potentially offer them so that they can get started and see, even on their own that
Yeah.
that they can connect?
Yeah. So one of the big things I do, you had mentioned it briefly, is, I'm certified in two different types of breath work. And that's a big part of it because we do breath work every morning. So when I was developing these retreats, the one thing I've always found with beginners is they have a hard time meditating and getting grounded, because they're not used to doing it. And, everybody's got, what they call the monkey brain and whatnot. And I woke up one morning, I was like, I think I can get them there if I do some really cool, deep meditative breath work, because then I can get them into that space and they're focusing on the breathing and not focusing on their brain. And I was right. And it's working. And, and also releasing all that grief and fear that they have that they're coming in with, because I create a very safe place. Like there's no ego, there's no drama, there's no attitude. There is like, this is your safe place to be with people who are here to support you. I'm here to support you. We're all here to support you, and so to create that space. And so, we do breath work to release all that. And then we start to open up. So, we do little exercises to open up our clairs, our clear hearing, our clear seeing, our clear knowing, etc. And there's little things people can do, even that I do on the retreat. You can even like do memory card games, that opens up your clear cognizance, just like trying to, remember where things are, or to, get a pack of cards and, try to guess what card it is before it gets down. Sorry, before you put it down, whether it's the color or the suit, et cetera. There's little things like that, even with Claire audiences, making yourself listen to you know, a podcast or whatever it is, and then try to, repeat back or write down everything you just heard to like get your mind working, that you're paying attention more to details, so there's little things like that you can do. So we do a bunch of different like fun exercises to open all that. And I help them understand their chakras and auras and how we work with all of that. And then, we use a lot of psychic tools. I always start with psychic on the retreat. So, we do tools to play with, even though I don't believe in tarot cards and stuff, but we'll play with tarot cards and everything just to help them learn how to, start trusting their intuition with people and, the few other things. And so that's what we start with. And then we go into mediumship after that, once they start to get a little bit more comfortable with that. So,
Yeah.
uh,
No, it's beautiful, and I think it's such a good kind of what's it called? Way in the breath work, because I always say, like that the key, like the number one key to any type of channeling is you have to find your way to get out of your head and into your body and away, as you said, from the monkey
exactly.
mind. And I always definitely will start with just like a few deep breaths, like 5 or 6, and then I will tend to go into a deeper meditation. But it's such a great tip that if you're not a great meditator, that potentially focusing on your breath is going to be the key in, especially if you're not an experienced meditator.
Mhm.
I really
Yeah, just to do like a guided meditation, you can find so much stuff online,
Mhm.
do a guided meditation, just focus on your breath. And I find that is really helpful, especially, for beginners, to help them get grounded and feel comfortable and connected to then be open for the work.
Yeah. So I'm curious about your experience as a channeler. Do you experience channeling sort of spirit guides and other beings like angels and stuff as a separate entity as mediumship, as connecting to loved ones? Because you keep saying that they seem to be separate for you. And I'm
Uh,
curious. Then.
well, so there's psychic, right? So psychic, I'm just putting my energy directly into you. I'm not opening up to guides or loved ones. I'm literally just my energy straight in and going into each part of your life, work, relationship, blah, blah, blah. I I put everything in little boxes. I'm very organized in my head. Everybody has to stand in certain places. Everything is in little boxes. And then I put it all together. So psychic to me is going directly into mediumship is just loved ones on the other side and bringing forth that evidence that's undeniable with, at least 5 to 10 facts about each person that you can validate. So, it's them. And then I know where my information's coming from. Guides will come in readings sometimes. When people come on a retreat, I actually give everybody a spirit guide reading, which is insane because I just did 18 readings in a row in England.
So tired.
Yeah, I was like, just like little 5 to 7 minute, but I've done it a long time. I mean, I wouldn't normally do that on any other day. It's like, that's a one time kind of like, okay, let's go. But guides are a different thing because the thing is that guides usually aren't people that we have met in this life. In my experience, you can have loved ones as a guide, but in general, they're usually people you haven't met. And there's usually 1 or 2 that will stay with you and then other ones that'll cycle through. Guides will just come up on their own sometimes in readings, but most of the time it'll be if somebody asks about them. The thing that's tough with the guides is you can't validate them like a loved one. Like you can say, okay, I've got your father here who was in his 60s, who was an alcoholic, who passed with a heart attack that you didn't talk to for many years. Like that's a fact or it's not. And someone's gonna go, yes, that's my dad, or no, it's not. With spirit guide, I may see a medical guide or a child guide, and I see why they're there and the person can confirm that that makes sense. I'm like, this person is here because you're having, problems with your blood or whatnot. And they'll go, yes, that's correct. Whatever it is. But you can't validate who I'm seeing. The one thing I will tell you that has been cool, it has happened on quite a few occasions where I have gotten guides for people and people have like jumped off the couch. They're like, oh my God, that's the guide I've been seeing for years. So I actually have had that validation sometimes, but most people haven't been in touch with their guides, to see them. So that's a separate thing to me. I mean, obviously it all works together, but I work with the guides in one way, I work psychically one way, and mediumship in a way. That being said, when I do a combined reading of, psychic mediumship, I'll always start with mediumship and I'll look into your life through your loved one and through my own side. Because like I may feel different than your loved one about something. I'll be like, your mom would say this, and I'm like, but this is what I see. So we got to figure out which the right decision is in the situation,
Yeah. It's so interesting because I've never really considered or heard that definition for psychic reading, if you will. So would you say then technically, I guess to me it was all the same thing. I never really distinguished them as separate, if you will. Or for
very
me, because
different.
for me, predominantly, when I'm working with a client, like my niche is spirit guides, right? People come to me because I'm connecting with your spirit guide,
Right.
that only. And mediumship, I do always put in a separate box of like, I almost feel like I have to switch realms almost to connect to a loved one. And I'm not as experienced in it, or definitely probably not nearly as accurate as you are. And so definitely something I'm willing to develop, but not quite there yet, for sure. I'm like really my zone of genius feels like spirit guides. And so then when you're saying psychic for you is like I'm reading you, the individual, I always kind of saw that as synonymous of like, at least in my head, it's like the spirit guide is telling me and I'm reading into you from what your guide is sharing with me. And so it's interesting to hear it as like, actually, I'm not calling in anyone, I'm just reading you. And so I've never heard that definition before. And that's really interesting.
Yeah, no, I look just go straight into there's nobody else there. I mean, I know very clearly where my information is coming from, but when I reach to the guides, I get another level, and with loved ones as well.
So would you say when you're doing like a psychic reading that potentially you're tapping into their highest self, if you will, or like just their soul?
Yeah, just their soul. It's weird. For me, all I have to do is hear someone's voice. I don't have to see them, anything. And I just take a breath and feel into them, and like I just start seeing it. And I'll be pulled into the 99% of the time, I'll be pulled in the place that they need it the most. Because I'll go through like, okay, relationship, health, work, family, whatever. And I'm like, they're here for relationship. I'm going to go through the rest of it. But I was like, relationship first or work first. And they're like, yeah, that's right. I'm like, cool. So that's me know we have our first connection. And it's like, then I just kind of, I don't know how to explain it. It's like I can see and feel the past, present, future of it. And like the little ins and outs of it,
Yeah.
It's interesting. when you just do something and you've always just done it a certain way. It's like, it's hard to explain. It's like, I don't know. I just can. Like, it's just, I just close my eyes and it's just like, it's just there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. No. And the only reason I'm really kind of pushing the questions is because I know people who are trying to develop their own experience, right? And so that was going to bring me to my other question is, would you say that there was one clair that was a little bit stronger for you? Like, I know for me, I'm predominantly clairvoyant and I had to actively work to develop the other ones. Was there one that came through easier for you?
Yeah. So the Clairaudience was always the strongest for me. And that's something I teach people in classes. I tell everybody, you're all going to work completely differently. I'm going to help you learn how to work, how you work, and you're going to notice Claire is going to be stronger than the other, and we'll work on making that one stronger, but then also getting those weaker ones and pulling those up, so the Clairaudience has always been the strongest. I mean, I would hear before I even see somebody, I'd hear somebody, hello there, and I would hear this man like come through and somebody would start laughing like, that's my grandpa, that's exactly how we spoke, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so I always would hear them so like crisp and clear, always. That was always the strongest from the get-go. And then it all kind of evened out over years of, after working on it.
When you initially tapped in, did it ever scare you? Were you ever fearful of them coming in? No.
As I said, like when it all made sense one day, I literally felt the most me I'd ever felt in my life. Like, I can't imagine doing anything else. It's like, it's who I am. I love it. I love getting to help people every day of my life. I mean, it doesn't get better than that, So it's not scary to me at all. I'm grateful for it,
I'm curious your opinion on setting boundaries with spirit. And because I know it gets very sensationalized on TV. If you think of like,
Oh, I know.
or right, something like that, where, she's walking through the grocery store and she's getting all anxious because she's getting bombarded with somebody's loved ones. Is that the experience for you, or is there boundaries that you set? And what does it really feel and look like when you tap in?
So one, you have to remember all those people have to like sign waivers before, that person comes up. So it's like, like they already know who they're going to read.
Yeah.
So for me, I don't pick up anything when I'm not working. And it's really hard for people to believe that. And I think that's just because of all the stuff on TV. Like, I really don't. For me, I also feel like, people would get, when this all first started, have people like get scared of me and like think I could like read their minds and like, didn't want to hang out with me. And in my mind, I'm thinking, like, how self-centered that you think when I'm off work that all I want to do is like read you. Like, I'm doing whatever I'm doing. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you are not in my brain, like, at all. Like, I'm tired. I want to go home. I want to be with my kids. I want a glass of wine. I don't want to read anybody else. It's the last thing in the world I want, So in the beginning, it was hard to figure out that opening and closing up of the boundaries. And that's one of the things I teach people every day. We open up every morning. So I teach them how to open up and, and how to, close down after. So you're only open when you want to be open. And that takes a while, now it's like brushing your teeth. But, the simplest way I can say it is, almost like opening up like a flower and then closing it down at the end of the day, or if you have a case around you and you open the door and then you lock it at the end of the day, whatever visual it is. And so I only open up when I walk into my office and I close down the second, I'm done. But when I first started, I wasn't very good I could open up just fine, but I wasn't very good at closing down. And so sometimes if I rushed from work, to go get my kids or, rush to a dinner or whatever, I was still open and my head would just start pounding. I would feel stuff from people like in the restaurant or wherever I was, not because I wanted to read people. It was like that I just hadn't shut down. It's like I left the door wide open, and it wasn't like it was trying to bombard me. It was like, it was just my fault that I hadn't closed my store doors, essentially,
And what does that closing down ritual look like? Is it a ritual that you do? Is it simply a visualization?
It's just a visualization, I just always say thank you, for everything that I receive for the day. And I just literally imagine like imagine like closing curtains or closing a door, and I literally just, everything just kind of goes black and like, I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very much the experience for me as well. I definitely like, I'm not picking up on other things that I'm in my regular life. Like, I have to it's within the context of calling the guides in and, when I'm done, I close it down, I say thank you, and usually I'll go do something like wash my hands or, use some Palo Santos or something to clear the space and clear the energy, and then it's done. But for sure, no, I'm not picking up on people in the grocery store the way that they
Yeah, no, it's
separate
like it never
stuff.
happens. I'll tell you the only time that will happen is if like I go on like vacation for 2 weeks or something and I've kind of just gotten out of the habit, then I'll walk into a place and I'll like start picking things up about a building or whatever because it's like my guard has been let down. But that's about it. But it's not like I'm picking up people in a restaurant, but I'll pick up like locations or stuff like that.
Yeah. And I think that that's honestly for a lot of people, it becomes a bit of a barrier to entry because I think there's a fear that if I open myself up to this, what if I like turn on the faucet and it's like this floodgate comes through and I'm never able to shut it off? Right. And then I feel like this crazy person and they don't almost allow themselves to get into a deep enough meditative state because they're fearful of what could happen. Right. Or that they'll never be able to shut it off. And so then they come in with a lot of apprehension, right? And so I think it's really helpful for people to know, like, no, 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 like we're in control. We have a say, like who's coming in and who's not, and what information is coming through when and how. And I think that that is it's a very important thing to relay as a medium that like hold on, I'm not like this. I'm not walking around feeling like a schizophrenic all day long, right? Like it's not
That
what's
I
happening.
always, yeah, I always remind people that like you always have control. You know, when people like, no spirit's going to attach themselves to you, or whatever. That's like in your mind. Like it's not happening. And you always have control. Sometimes you may feel a little bit out of control, but it's just about getting grounded again and then just closing those doors. But I can see why it's scary for people. But I try to take that fear away. Like it's not going to happen. Most of the time, it's people's imagination that gets the best of them, and they create things that aren't there. And that's the truth.
Yeah.
You know. Now, I'm not dismissing when there are real things that happen to people, but so I don't want to generalize everything because there are unique things where people's houses are have got something in it, or they feel like someone's attached there, or they're getting physical feelings from it, whatever. That's a whole different thing. But in general, doing any sort of intuition work, mediumship work, spirit guide, I've never seen anything bad happen to anybody, or it's just they might just get overwhelmed, but that's just a matter of understanding what it is and learning your boundaries, and then it's going to be just fine.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. It's so beautiful. And I would love if you could cr- kind of clear up one other misconception that I think a lot of people have about channeling, which is after you channel, do you in your experience, does it feel particularly exhausting? Do you feel particularly drained at the end of doing a session? I think a lot of people think like, oh my gosh, like I'm gonna do this and then I'm just gonna be like wrecked for the rest of the day.
Sometimes you do feel that way.
Mhm.
It depends on the reading. Now, I mean, I don't now, but in the beginning, I did. I would feel really tired, I mean, I'm talking over 15 years ago, I could do one like, every few days, and then it was one every day, and then it was one a day, and then it was two, blah, 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 blah. Because you just build up that stamina. That being said, it also depends on the client and the subject matter. Some people drain me more. I won't say that. I feel more drained from them. Nobody's trying to drain you. Just some readings are more draining because it can be because of two things. One, the subject matter and the amount of people coming in. Because I can do a reading for somebody and they can have 15 people come in,
Mm.
you know, and that happens quite often. And that's a lot of work, and so that's tiring. Sometimes the subject matter is very heavy. I deal with a lot of suicides and murders and really heavy stuff. And so that can be really draining, and going through those details and going through those deep, dark conversations with people, to be honest,
Yeah.
because those are very sensitive conversations and you have to be very conscious of what you say, how you say it, but to also be truthful with compassion, and responsible. There's a lot of layers there. So there's that. And then honestly, sometimes you just have a client that does feel really draining because you can feel them pulling on you,
Mm.
or they want something so bad, or they're coming in with so much anger, they're, projecting whatever they're going through. So that can make you feel tired. Most people don't, but there's just the occasional, once in a while that I'm like, oh boy, this person's gonna suck me dry, But you just learn how to maintain your energy, and I know I need to take specific amount of time for breaks, and I'm responsible about that. So
And do you have any sort of practices that you do to help ground yourself and nourish yourself afterwards or fill yourself back up?
yeah, sometimes like it just depends. Sometimes it's just being quiet or going for walks. Sometimes, as silly as it sounds, like jumping online and like doing something brainless, like shopping for shoes or something like that, just to get my mind, I'm dead serious, to get my mind into a completely different space actually helps me just kind of disconnect, you know? It sounds silly, but it works for me. And also just, sometimes just a glass of wine. It's like,
Yeah.
we're chill now. We're just, whew, you know. But also exercising is really helpful, having something healthy, water or, even washing your hands. And, I'll tell you, putting your hand on a tree, your feet in the dirt does a hell of a lot. People overestimate it, or underestimate, I should say. In between readings, when I first started, I was in downtown, and in between readings, I would literally go down and I would go put my hands on random trees, and like people would walk by and be like, "What is this girl doing?" Because there's all these people walking by, and I'm like, "I'm getting grounded. Piss off. I'm fine." And I would feel better. So, I mean, there's a lot of things you can do in different, it depends on the day of the different things I do.
Yeah.
But anything with earth and water always seems to be the best.
Yeah, I find that
It's
to
great.
be the same for myself, right? I'll
Mhm.
usually go for a walk around the block, kind of get barefoot in the grass. For me also, I find it really I feel the need to eat something really like comforting. Like I need to eat like a big bowl of pasta or something.
No, that's so true. When I
Like
first
center.
started, because it does drain you that way. I mean, I would come home and eat like a football player, and I'm a little girl. And when that work used to really drain me way back in the day, I ate so much when I got home. But because you're utilizing so much energy.
Yeah.
You're burning like so many calories. People wouldn't expect it, but you are.
I know. That's why I say it's so I love the analogy that like it's like training for a marathon. Like you are expending a lot of energy in doing so. But again, as long as you
Yeah.
do have, the practices to build yourself back up, like it's not unsustainable.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I would love to get to a place where I'm like in so much awe and admiration of you because I'm still in that place where I will only see one client a day. I will, and I do. I mean, I tend to do 90-minute sessions. They're a little bit longer, and also I have very little kids who can't be away from me for that long. But you know, for that one a day, I'm like that's enough. If I found that if I was doing more, and there was a time before I had kids where I was seeing 2, 3, sometimes 4 people a day, and I was just getting so cranky.
Yeah,
um,
no, I was doing 5 a day for a long time because I just had that many clients. I mean, but I
wow.
got really burnt out. I got really, really burnt out, but, if you want, I'll train you, I can help you get there, when you're ready.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love that. I would love to connect further. Okay, well, I do have this question. I think this is something that everybody sort of experiences, especially when they're just starting out, is like they think they're getting messages, but they have trouble sort of being able to trust themselves, right? If especially if someone's trying to channel for themselves or receive information for themselves, and it's a question that they're particularly attached to the outcome of, we can sometimes be so opaque to ourselves. I would say, what would you say is something that people can do to really start to build that trust in their abilities?
Trusting is the hardest part of it because we don't want to fail.
Mm,
But the thing is, you have to fail to succeed. And what I mean by this is you have to be willing to trust it, or like the only way you know the difference between right and wrong with this kind of work is by literally, saying whatever it is or following through. And then sometimes you're going to find you're right. Sometimes you're going to find that you're wrong. But over time, you're going to start to notice the little differences between when something feels right and when something feels wrong. And then you're going to start noticing, oh, this feels wrong. And, the yeses will get stronger for you. But you have to know what the no's feel like and what the yeses feel like. And you start to notice the difference in your gut. Because look, even in readings for me now, I'll feel into something and I'll go, this feels 100% correct. And then sometimes I'll go, ooh, this doesn't give me as strong of a thing. So this might be wrong, you know? And so I've learned to trust that, you know, and that it's truly trial and error that you actually have to go through to do that. And that's scary, you know, but if you are in a safe place to do it, it's awesome. And you build that confidence, you know, because that you all of a sudden get one thing, you know, wrong, I guess. But then you get the next thing right. And then the next thing you feel, you're like, oh, this doesn't feel as good as that first time. So I know this is wrong. And then they take another breath in and they get another one right. And so they're learning how they work, you know, what those gut feelings feel like. And that's really what has to happen there.
Mm, yeah. Okay. And so when you say that like you feel it in your body as a yes or a no, right? Or that's wrong and that's right. Would you say that for the individual, it would almost be like it would be the same sensation for yes and the same sensation for no? And would that be a physical sensation in their body potentially?
Well, the sensation, yeah, you'll eventually, because all the sensations will feel the same until you try you start, you know, trusting or putting out there, you know. And some people may be scared to say something, but you know, and maybe that they just need to write it down, you know, and then find out a way to find out if it was correct or not, if they're feeling really insecure, not ready, you
Mhm.
know, and then they can start making notes. Okay, I was right about this, and that's what I felt when I got this, and then okay, I was wrong. That's what I was feeling when I got this wrong, or you know, whatever. And you'll slowly, truly start to be able to tell the difference.
Mhm. Yeah. So,
It's like that simple and that complicated at the same time.
right. And that's what I feel like I always say, like, the best thing you can do is to practice on other people because they can give you that live feedback right away. Like, that makes sense or that doesn't mean anything to me, right? And the more
Yes.
that you can
Yeah.
get that
So
information, you can trust it, right?
yeah. So, you know, so in the retreats, that's why I create this like safe community. So everybody just plays. Cause I tell people, you know, the first couple of days, like, you're not trying to be right or wrong. I just want you to play. Like, I want you just to spit out what comes into your brain. Like, there is no right, there is no wrong, there is no challenge, there is no reward. There's none of it. Like, just play. And if you can look at it from the place of just playing, you know, with like giving people information, when you don't feel that pressure, people are shocked how many right things they get when they just start spitting things out, when they're just allowing it to flow,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
And I think when you're in the place, that's why we do so much practice work together, and it's just play, you know, and we reset until all of a sudden we start to trust ourselves, and hands down, every single person gets it
Mhm.
after 2 or 3 times, you know, especially when we take the pressure off. It's not about being right or wrong. It's like, just spit out what comes in your head. Just go, you
Mhm.
know, and, uh, and that's a way to get past it. So we do a lot of that.
Mhm. And would you say that, and this is something that I always try to kind of delineate for people also is that when you are channeling, it's really not something that's so outside of yourself, right? And that maybe it's something you've been doing your whole
Mhm.
life, right? Like for me, I always say, I am predominantly clairvoyant, but it doesn't look like I'm seeing an apparition in front of my hand, right? It very much looks like my imagination, right? But within
Yeah.
the context of channeling, I've called in the guides, I've asked for the messages, and now I have to trust the visual that's coming into my head. It looks like my imagination. Would you say that that's very much the experience that a lot of your clients have as well when they realize, like, maybe I've been doing this all along?
Yes, yes, because you have to access your creative side, your imagination. You know, that's how we see all of it. I mean, I can't tell you, every single day I'm like, I'm going to be put in a mental institution because I see these crazy things, but like, I have no fear. So I'm like, I'm just going to put it out there. And I always tell people it's always the craziest things I say that end up making the most sense later. And it is every time. I get an
Mhm.
email, whether it's a day later, even up to 10 years later, like about things, you know, because you have all this crazy stuff coming into your imagination. It's just about being willing to spit it out,
Mhm.
you know, into the universe,
Yeah.
you know,
And
because
I
it's in your mind's eye.
absolutely, and it's you have to kind of go with it. I think you were absolutely right in saying, it's not necessarily about or the fear of getting it wrong really can't stop you because even if it doesn't make sense to the person in front of you in that moment, maybe it will make sense, 5, 10 years
Mhm.
from now, or even 6 months from now, right? So it's always like getting over the fear of just saying it anyway, right? Even if they have no idea why you're saying it. Mm.
Yeah, you know, and I've learned that, you know, so many times that if there's one thing that doesn't make sense, I always say, please hold on to it. I don't even flinch about it because I know it's going to make sense. And I always tell people, as long as at least 90% makes sense while you're with me, I sleep well at night. I've done my job, because there's going to be a few things you're going to have to validate later. There's going to be some future stuff. And also, like, I may get one or two pieces of trash, because we are all human. Like, I don't try to be perfect. I'm always shooting for 100%. But if somebody goes, oh, that one initial that makes sense, that one item, I go, I don't care. It's going to when it's supposed to, or if that's the one thing and the other 90% does, beautiful. And if you can come into this work in a relaxed place of knowing that, like, nobody's perfect, you're never going to be, it's a lot easier, because we're all human. And also, some things aren't going to make sense, and they're going to make sense down the road. I mean, I've had people adamantly tell me that doesn't make sense, da, da, da. And then they send me, an email months later. I'm really sorry. I found that thing, or you were right about that. I'm sorry, it was me. And I'm like, it's fine. Like, people are projecting whatever they need to project. And I just say, okay, good. I'm just glad it made sense,
Yeah. I love it. I have two other questions for you, and then I know we're getting close to time and we got to wrap up here, but my one question is, and then this is something that I do try to share with people, and it's in my own experience, I find that we can have a hard time channeling messages for ourselves. And would you say that that's also the truth for you? That it can be harder sometimes to get that clarity for yourself? And what's
Oh, totally.
and that someone can do, because I find that especially when people are starting out, right? Like, they're too scared to actually say the thing and try and channel for somebody else, right? So they're going to just try and get messages for themselves, and then they get frustrated because they can't trust it or they're not sure. And I almost say, like, you're actually trying to do the harder thing first, right? It's actually easier to channel for somebody else.
It's true.
So can you validate that for everybody listening?
It is true. When it comes to myself, I mean, I second guess myself all the time. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, I've done well over 15,000 readings in my career, and I still second guess myself. And in like the dumbest ways. I mean, where I like know something and I'm like, no, it's going to be fine. Then it happens. I'm like, I knew it. And like, I didn't listen to it. I always say it's like, it's easier for me to just read a random person off a bus stop than to read myself. It's like, just give me a complete stranger and I'll nail it. And then it comes to me and I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea. But I do find that writing can be helpful for a lot of people. We do auto writing
Yeah.
at the retreat, and it's going to be stronger for some people than others. But I find that to be really good if you can just, get into even just a light meditative state and just ask questions and allow yourself to truly just write and not judge it. If you can do that, I think people can do that as an exercise to start accessing that intuition a little bit more. If they know, like, nobody else is going to read this, don't, judge what it looks like or what you're writing or if it's going up and down the page. And when I say auto writing, people think, oh, is a ghost going to come in and take my hand? No, you're not. It's true. It's like, you're just, you're accessing your own ability, and so I think that's a good exercise for people who are feeling that.
Yeah, I've definitely found that to be my number one way of receiving messages for myself is through automatic writing, for sure. Because I think it's sort of like that analogy of a dirty faucet. Like, it allows you to almost let your own thoughts get out of the way. You can kind of dump them onto the page, and then eventually the clarity comes and it'll take over, if you will. And you do experience it. Like, I know you're saying it's not like a ghost is taking over, but I do experience, like, the pen does get faster. I do experience the tone change from not sure what to do to you need to do this, right? So I do experience that a little bit. And, like, it definitely feels like someone's talking to you, for sure. Yeah, that's a really helpful tip, and I wholeheartedly agree. So that's amazing. I can't remember what the last question I was going to ask you, so I guess I'll ask you. Is there anything that you would love to share with our listeners that I didn't get a chance to ask you, or that you would really love to share?
Oh gosh, it's like, how much time do we have? I mean, the one thing I would say, I mean, really to sum it up, is like, this work is not something to be afraid of. Like, I always say to people, like, it's cool to be in touch with your own intuition and your own mediumship. Like, you always have the ability to be in touch with your own loved ones. People assume if you do mediumship, it's that you want to go do readings for other people, but it's not really what it's about, you know? And to know that, like, you always have guides and your loved one who's looking out for you, that you have the strength and the ability to do this. Like it's all our natural, innate ability, and to embrace it. To me, I feel like it's a new kind of wellness to, for our world to open up more to this, and to be more in touch because like we're getting so out of touch with everything. It's all technology, which is pulling people apart. What we really need to do is be more connected to ourselves and to our loved ones and our guides. And like, I want to take the stigma out of that and the weirdness out of it. Like, it doesn't have to be. That's what I'm trying to normalize and have like these, really nice retreats. It's like, but I just can't stress enough how much I feel that like everybody has this ability, like every single person is capable. If you're just willing to just be open and curious and just try and play,
Yeah.
so that's what I would say.
Yeah, and so true, and I highly second that, right? It's within you, and I really think that, connecting to your intuition and doing this, it really is, it's a medium to coming home to yourself and getting into alignment, and I think, like, how could even if you're just curious, right? It's definitely worth a try. So, everybody who,
Yeah.
is wanting to connect a little bit further, they loved hearing what you had to say, maybe they wanna connect directly with you. How can everybody find you? Where can they find you and get in touch with you?
So my website is Nissa Retreats. Nissa is just my middle name. People always ask.
Mhm.
So it's Nissa Retreats. You can book meetings with me there. And then I have my retreats. I just finished one up in England literally 2 days ago at Broughton Sanctuary. And then I have one coming up in Mexico, November 2nd to November 7th. And then another one in North Carolina from March 1st to March 6th. Yeah. So you can go to the website, connect with me there. You can email us at hello@nissaretreats.com. And that is how you find me.
Yeah, and Heidi's been so generous. She's going to offer a little coupon code for anybody who wants to work with her, and so you'll be able to find that in the show notes afterwards. So just check in the show notes and you'll be able to connect with her a little better. She's so generous. Thank you so much, Heidi, for connecting with us and joining me today. It has been so inspiring. So thank you so, so much.
Oh, no, thank you. And yeah, stay in touch and, hopefully I'll see you in the future for sure.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks. Have a great day.